Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on ESG integration into corporate strategy, bridging the gap between compliance and value creation. So today we are here to discuss about this important topic. As businesses navigate a rapidly changing world, ESG has evolved from a regulatory necessity to a strategic driver of innovation, stakeholder trust, and long-term value creation. Investors, regulators, and stakeholders are increasingly holding companies accountable for their ESG performance, making it imperative to embed sustainability into corporate strategy. So India too has seen a major shift in ESG reporting with the introduction of the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting Framework, which is also called as BRSR, which has been mandated for the top 1,000 listed companies by SEBI. This regulatory move has also brought in a lot of change to enhance transparency, ensuring companies disclose quantitative and qualitative ESG performance metrics. The BRSR framework does not just focus on compliance, but it also emphasizes on companies and can integrate sustainability, how companies can integrate sustainability into their overall business strategy. So today we are here to discuss about this. So and also we will explore how industry leaders are embedding ESG into their decision-making processes, overcoming challenges, and unlocking opportunities for sustainable growth. So I have my esteemed panel members, panelists who bring a wealth of experience and expertise in the ESG integration. So let me introduce you to them. So I have Nirbhay Lumde, who's a senior VP ESG and sustainability at Prestige Group Bangalore. So he is an award-winning ESG leader with more than 20 years of experience. Nirbhay is also known for driving impactful sustainability and corporate responsibility initiatives in a stint. He is a published author and a thought leader in ESG, passionately advocating for net zero goals and the use of technology to advance social and environment objectives. We also thanks Nirbhay for joining for this webinar. We also have Dr. Deepa Chandran, who is the sustainability lead lifestyle brands at Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. Dr. Deepa holds a PhD in environmental engineering and sustainability with a focus on developing performance indicators for the textile industries. More than a decade is spent in the textile industry by Deepa. Her passion for transforming India's textile industry into a sustainable, non-polluting industry is matched by her extensive leadership experience in this domain. Thanks, Deepa, for joining in for this webinar, and welcome to the event. So we also have Srinivas Metlapalli, who's a VP and EHS at ESG at Suven Pharmaceuticals. Mr. Srinivas comes with 27 years of experience in industrial health, safety, and environmental management. Srinivas leads ESG, and EHS initiatives at Suven Pharmaceuticals. Yeah, welcome to the call, Mr. Srinivas. So we have Sunila Sashtrabuddhe, who's president at Optus ESG. She comes with over 2 decades of ESG experience. Sunila has led key projects like the Mumbai Trans Harbour Link and Mumbai Metro Line 3 as an environmental specialist. In her last stint, she was heading the ESG initiatives at Biocon India. So she has conducted more than 60 impact studies across diverse industries such as infrastructure, pharmaceuticals, and renewable energy. We also have Mr. Yogesh Natu, ESG expert and ex-head of sustainability at Century Textiles India. Yogesh brings 18 plus years of experience in environment management, health, and safety across industries such as manufacturing, real estate, and textiles. Welcome to the call, Yogesh. Happy to have all you guys in the call. So before we begin our discussion, I would like to request all esteemed panelists to just keep your cameras on in case. I think Nirbhay couldn't see you. Yeah. Thanks, Nirbhay. So Nirbhay, I mean, let me start with you. So in case of, so what is we would like to understand from you is, so today if you see there is, I understand any new concept has to have a top-down approach. If leadership is not aligned, then the culture also can't be aligned to the thought process of the organization. I want to understand from you on how do we embed ESG into the overall decision-making process. From your experience, what are the most effective ways to embed ESG into corporate decision-making process at the leadership level? Nirbhay, let me start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Ajay. Good afternoon, everyone. And so nice to see a wonderful other panelists from the industry and the other sectors. Yeah, these are the forums really gives us the confidence in that is we are all in this together and we are trying to solve in our own means and ways of driving sustainability. Ajay, thanks so much for asking that. I think even before going, how do we really look at the effective ways to embed ESG? Uh, I would really start with this is largely top, top driven from the top. That's how I would really look at it in terms of top down commitment is really required, and then you also need to have a leadership commitment. The way I look at maybe I would answer in three different ways or maybe three different structure. One for sure is about leadership buy-in is essential. While I would not say that just leadership buy-in would really suffice, but leadership buy-in with accountability is really essential to really bring in everyone together. While the sustainability or ESG leads would be the leaders to really take forward the journey, but you need to have your board or the management on your side saying that, hey, no, we will stand by you and we will support you with required resources to really drive the journey. And of course, it's also really important when I say accountability, it's not just about saying that, no, you go every quarter and check about saying that, you know, where we stand, vis-a-vis what we are really committed. But it's about having some of these leaders also having ESG as their KPIs, which is typically not, but if it is there, I think it really makes a lot of sense in terms of really when you really track ESG performance versus ESG. In fact, if you look at any global rating system, does speak about accountability vis-a-vis with your in terms of KPIs related to ESG. The second foremost, which is I'm sure the Updapt is the master over here. What really matters about it's not about your beliefs on the myopic. It's largely about the entire decision making has to be data driven. Today, when we look at ESG portion of it, when we really look at the journey of barring the governance, environment and social are really extremely critical. And it's really important for us to have not just about having a control of these metrics, but also going to really have have a system in place that we really able to measure those metrics in place. And of course, as part of your risk enterprise risk management, some of these things have to be in place. Else, it does not make any sense as such. So, therefore, I think leadership buy-in, data-driven approach is certainly will be handy. While I say that these two are look much simpler and easier to understand, and maybe some of us on the other side really look at extremely tough because where do we really I get that kind of commitment? What really matters is about how do we really integrate the ESG as part of your business strategy. That's really important. So therefore, the best way of the way I look at it is about look at ESG as part of your enterprise risk management, and I guess that's how you can really segue into it. And of course, stakeholder engagement is really critical, which is really important for it to really have a buy-in. And that's how the journey really starts in terms of where are we headed, and how do we really drive in terms of effective ways of embedding ESG into the decision making. While some of these really look rosy, this is a journey is extremely challenging. It will be slow for sure. In the long run, I guess, and the if you look at any of the annual reports of any of the big companies that really make big, would really agree with me saying that yes, in the long run, the ROI is guaranteed for sure. So that's how I look at it, Ajay. So three, four things: leadership buy-in for sure, data-driven approach. You need to really integrate ESG into your business strategy for sure. And of course, you need to have your stakeholders on your side when you're driving the journey put together. Over to you, Ajay.
Ajay, you are on mute.
Ajay, you are
Sorry.
on mute.
Yeah. Sorry.
Ajay, on
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Nirbhay. I mean, you have shared a very interesting perspective. So the next question would be to Mr. Srinivas. Srinivas, in your opinion, how has the perception of ESG among stakeholders evolved, and what impact has it had on decision making in your pharma sector industry, Srinivas? We'll be happy to understand from the perspective.
Thank you, Ajay. Good afternoon, everyone. Really, it's an exciting webinar. Everybody are understanding so that we will learn so many things from the different presenters. So just I would like to emphasize the stakeholders approach towards the ESG. The past 1 decade, people perception has changed. Earlier it used to be as a secondary aspect, but now it has shown a business strategy and the critical factor. ESG is a critical factor. Each and every the stakeholder is looking. So for example, if you take a stakeholder of investors, because see, we are into pharma, there are a lot of number of investors will be there, shareholders. They are looking how this organization, the pharmaceutical sector is very prone for the pollution. That's the people mind, it is there, right? So always they look at how the organization pharmaceutical this industry is working towards the ESG goals. So that's what they are giving high priority, and the investors are going into that particular organizations. We are putting more efforts toward the ESG. That's the one factor which is influencing the investors like shareholders impact. The second thing what I can say, customers are very important for the pharmaceutical industry. So that the customers, if you take in India per se, we are giving support to the multinational companies, different companies, where they are taking our support, developing the APIs or different kind of molecules. So that during this process, what is happening, the organization, how they are giving a proper importance to the ESG aspects. Like if you take environment, how we are protecting the environment, how the pollution loads are being reduced. The second aspect is how emissions are being controlled. The third aspect, if you see, they are looking for the safety of the people who are working inside the plant and their business continuity. See, something happens with respect to the social aspects, with respect to the people, definitely there is a business interruption for them. So they are looking very uh, with lenses, they are searching and they are selecting the people who are the masters or leaders in the ESG aspects implementation. This is the major impact, because every pharma industry wants to get the business from the customers. That's very important aspect. So the ESG is becoming a business continuity plan. So that's what the second stakeholders, what I can say. Then the third, if you take the employees, the people who are changing their companies, employers, and they wanted to work with the organization where they are having a focusing on the environment, social and governance aspects, because they will get benefit out of them. At the same time, they will get respect. There are various factors they are analyzing and choosing the employers, because nowadays the lot of employment is from the different employers. The opportunities are more. So that's the way the ESG implementation of ESG in a pharmaceutical industry very playing key role with respect to them. Then at the same time, risk management is very important, and business resilience is also very important factor. The business resilience will come from the customers, at the same time stakeholders. So everybody looking ESG implementation of the organization as a one of the key aspect. So that's the way it is happening. That in my industry, the impact has huge when we have started working towards the ESG. Because the lot of investors and customers are looking forward, and they are coming forward. They see any customer, they wanted to start a business with us, they first come for the environment, health and safety audit. Once you comply with their requirements, then only they will come for the quality audit and continue the business discussion. So that's why our organization, the pharmaceutical industry, is greatly benefiting by implementation of the ESG aspect in their day-to-day role. Then at the same time, the board and leadership decisions are coming very easily because the business threat. So it is becoming a very easy for pharmaceutical industry getting the investments, as well as the budgets for implementation. Such kind of things is because huge benefit of implementation of ESG in a pharmaceutical industry. This is the way we are getting benefit, and the people are looking, stakeholders are looking and valuing the industries which are having a high credibility in ESG. That's what, Ajay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Got it. So my next question would be to Dr. Deepa. So Deepa, I mean, how you come from the, textile domain. So how have you addressed the resistance or the skepticism, as this would have been an uphill task, as ESG would have been a complete new terminology among your fellow members in the organization. I mean, at least today we have the opportunity of talking about it day in day out, but in the initial days, how was your experience, and what strategy have you used to address skepticism or resistance from stakeholders who doubt the business value of ESG, Deepa?
Yeah, Ajay. I would really turn it around to say that it's more of ignorance rather than skepticism that prevails in this area that we are discussing, right?
Correct.
Business value of ESG is a rarely discussed topic as compared to probably discussions around the topic of ESG itself. ESG is a little more discussed, but really the
Okay.
business value of ESG is hardly discussed. It's a rare topic. And hence, I would say, I think the pivot is around awareness, which is, in my view, fairly low even today. Of course, for the professionals who are running the ESG domains or holding roles which call out ESG, I think
Hmm.
there it's still very low. And again, it it depends on the kind of industry that you're operating in. If you are an exporter, the awareness across is a little more higher as against someone who's just supplying for the domestic market in India. So various factors which really propel the understanding as well. Coming to the question of how really do you address this, I think a reversal, can happen probably with stricter rules and robust regulations in the market and in the businesses, which is what we are seeing with the BRSR, the
Right.
introduction of BRSR from last year. If you see, how SEBI has mandated it, and if you see the company portals, that's my favorite. I really dig into all the reports that are there on the internet. Each one of them adopting to BRSR. Now, how well is it done? What are the details that each one is disclosing? To what an extent uh, it really is impacting? I think time will tell, but it's a fairly brilliant start with BRSR. It's a very, very robust framework. I definitely, as a technical person, I'm a fan of this BRSR framework. It is comparable to any other international framework which is there around ESG. Beautiful, especially the BRSR core. I think we are lucky in India to have something as good as this, I would say, Ajay. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, thanks, Deepa. So, Nirbhay, taking cue from your earlier answer, for organizations with limited resources, what practical steps would you recommend to start their ESG journey and scale it effectively over a period of time, Nirbhay?
Yeah, Ajay, I think it was nice leaning to the earlier speakers. I think one for sure is about the stakeholder engagement for sure with the customers, and then what you have spoken just about saying that the ROI are the value that really the reporting that really brings in. Taking cue from there, I think I think the minute you see the value in either in reporting or otherwise in you're looking at your own the standard framework that are there. I guess it's not about the resource allocations. I think it's not about not just looking at saying that, hey, how much money really would cost me to pick up something on this. I think it's all about the intent that I would really look at it. And the way I would look at it, if I am someone with limited resources and I have far many restrictions or reservations about going forward, the best way that I really look at it, something that I really enjoy doing about the materiality assessment. That's really critical because that really helps you to look at how do I uh, look at my own materiality and what are those most critical factors as part of my ESG. That would really help me to drive down in terms of where I really stand. And it also really helps me to pinpoint what are those high impact focus areas in terms of when I really look at my ESG journey. The second most important is about looking at while many of us are most of in the market or otherwise look at saying that, hey, you know what, if I really want to change the world, I really need huge amount of resources, or people, or could be technology, right? But the way I look at it is about look back and see yourself. The minute you do your maturity, you really find out what are those low cost initiative that you really look into it. So see, I think some of them, so most of them really called like low hanging fruits, right? So look at some of those factors or initiatives that you can really drive and show the proof of the pudding to your management in case you are really constrained with the resources. So therefore it's really critical for you to really look at how do I really bring in the value in terms of what really adds value. And some of these things are extremely critical. The way I look at it, I think energy, while I'll not talk about energy efficiency, but I would certainly look at how do I really today move from conventional energy to renewable energy is something that I really look at in terms of if I'm not given any cost as such. Because in terms of the costing or in terms of the pricing, both of them, conventional RE, are more or less similar. The second most important, while today a good amount of us really says struggle or have a challenge with our procurement, go back, sit with your procurement team and see, do a materiality assessment, see how much already sustainable procurement is happening. That's really critical for you to really figure out how much is already is being done instead of saying that, no, I'll start from scratch. And of course, from a social point of view, the two bare minimum things are is about employee volunteering or employee giving. One for sure, employee giving not so much, but in terms of CSR is one for sure. I look at it internally. I look at it about employee well-being. So these are the quick things that you can really work around, build something, build some case studies, and work around it. The last one for sure is about when you have got low support in terms of the resources, limited resources. Do not venture into strategy right away. Look at where you really stand in terms of the compliance sets. See how you really you can make difference in terms of being top notch with respect to your compliances. That would really drive your strategy. The minute you are good with your compliances, not in the tick in the box, but largely keeping an eye on your one level above to your compliances would really help you to drive your strategy for sure. And of course, the other thing that you can look at is about adapting in one or two technology tools that really can ease out your work if you have got limited resources. That's how I look at it, Ajay, in terms of for sure is about materiality, followed by look at some of the initiatives already been done, build some case studies, look at how your compliance story is right now, enhance to two levels above for sure. And of course, if there are any tools that are available for you to, if not resources, human resources, but if you have got any tools and technology that's available for you to really structure your ESG roadmap, that would be really handy in terms of when you are really constrained with resources. Over to you, Ajay.
True, Nirbhay. I think digitization also will help a lot in this process, is what I would
I did not
suggest.
use Ajay. I did not use digitization for a reason because the minute we talk about digitization, is it's a gamut of many other things. So I only
Correct.
brought in tool for a reason because it's something that you really can figure it out. Hey, here is my metrics. I need to really measure and monitor. That's where I was using. So digitization is much bigger, gamut that really I need to embark into a journey. But tool is something that if I'm limited with resources, I can really pick up and run with it for sure.
Sure, Nirbhay. Thanks, Nirbhay. So, Nila, now Nirbhay and Deepa have given their perspective. So, I would like to understand what role do you think investors will play in driving the next wave of ESG adoption and innovation, Sunila?
Yeah, so brilliant question, and I'm happy to hear my panelist views. If I could just add one aspect there and then maybe answer your question, Ajay. So, I mean, of course, I think ESG principles have already been integrated into the corporate strategy of each business. I mean, this is what we are observing globally. And the best thing is, I think United Nations is driving it. So, the signatories are automatically, getting bound to comply to the United Nations principles. The moment you sign it, you are giving a commitment that you will comply to it. And if you look at the 10 principles, I think it is the gist of the ESG framework that is being followed by all the corporates across the globe. And now coming to the investors. So see, investors are now taking decisions basis, looking at ESG performance of the company. Earlier, we used to see the investors were more keen on the financials or maybe the legal compliances and maybe have a look at the brand value or even the image in the market, right? But for last, I think more than a decade, investors are also looking at the ESG performance equally. And I can say that because I was a part of a private equity where I was responsible for screening all the portfolio investments. And as we used to pay attention to the legal due diligence and financial due diligence at the beginning, equal attention was given to the ESG due diligence right from an investment perspective. And trust me, the investors are actually trying to understand one, the maturity of an organization on ESG. And once if they are convinced, even if we find that there are some red flags, there are some non-compliances, the investors do consider it as a part of the covenants that they are trying to cover up before investment, and they do give an opportunity to the portfolios for improving their compliances also. And while I say that, I think the investors are also now getting a part of the whole process what we are following. So when the corporates disclose their ESG performance, I think the rating agencies come ahead and give rating to each and every corporate. Of course, the rating and the scores of ESG play a very important role. And now investors, they look at these scores while considering any investment that they want to go ahead. And when I say that, I think the sectors in which the investments are happening is also very much dependent on that. So I think it's a whole, process and a flow that is coming out very clearly, where investors are now heavily dependent on the decision making when the ESG performance of corporates is coming out. And when I say that, I think the next aspect of your question, where you're saying how innovation is also coming into play. So the second aspect is when the investors are trying to invest in a corporate, the corporates always have a have an aspect where they say, okay, even if you want me to go a net zero or you want me to reduce my GHG emission, I definitely need some technological intervention, right? And there are a lot of new techniques across the globe which are there, and we are trying to bring these techniques to India. And when I say that, I think investors are also investing in bringing these technologies from different geographies to India. So this is how the investors are playing a very important role, while taking their decisions in investing in a corporate. And second is your, the technology intervention. And I think I will just touch upon a little bit on the sustainability linked loan and green bonds process also. Here again, it's very important to note that the sustainability linked loan principles also try and help corporates to first take certain KPIs. And these are all long-term KPIs, right? You get an opportunity to showcase that in next 5 years, I will say X reduce my emissions from X level to Y level. And next, if you look at the social aspect, you can even take KPIs like I will increase my, women employees percentage from again X to Y. You can again talk about the diversity and inclusion. So the frameworks of ESG are actually playing an important role while even selecting the KPIs for sustainability linked loans. And if you achieve the targets, you're getting a good rebate. So I think from the banking perspective, I think that is also very equally important that is coming out. And that's very helpful.
Thanks, Sunil. So now we spoke about how investors play a crucial role in implementing ESG. However, I have another question for you, Sunila. Now, how can we convince or quantify the financial and operational value of ESG for your organization, for an organization, and how this can be communicated to investors and stakeholders?
Yeah, very interesting question again. So I'll go back to the same aspect. When I was in private equity, we used to try and understand how much the the company has actually invested in ESG. And trust me, these numbers are not readily available, right? Because nobody in today's date actually trying to evaluate or bring in the ESG investment in the true sense. But the cost still sits into the three pillars, that is E, S, and G. And I think E and S play the major role when it comes to the quantification of the investment that is being done. Now, for example, if I can tell you, if any organization is investing in bringing in a new technology for improving their water quality, if any company is, focusing more on having a captive power purchase agreement for a long term, say 20 years, 25 years, the investments going into that bracket can also be captured as the ESG cost. And of course, when it comes to social, I think the companies are investing a lot in grooming their employees and training their employees. And I think capacity building is one important thing which is very evident across all the industry sectors, not only in India but globally, where the corporates are trying to bring their employees capability and understanding to a certain level. And when I say that, it's not only the ESG capability, but of course their contribution towards the business excellence. I think that is also a very important aspect where companies are spending a lot of money. And all these costs, even though they sit separately into each bracket of the business function, I think together, if you try and collate and communicate, I think investors are looking forward to getting some ESG ballpark figure of investment in, say, less 2 years or 5 years that the company has done.
Okay. Thanks, Anila. So my next question would be to Srinivas. I mean, Srinivas, how do we navigate the complexities of aligning global ESG standards with local regulations and cultural differences? How do we address this, or rather, what is your opinion?
Ajay, this question arose when we had a discussion about our industry, pharmaceutical industry, how we can collaborate and then concise our ESG goals or ESG strategies. So what happened is we thought that we need to develop a flexible ESG framework. It's not that rigid and only one thing we will make it. It's a want to make it flexible. It's like it's consistent with the global requirements and adapting the local requirements. These two aspects we have taken up. So how we have taken the leverage of this? We have taken the leverage of multi-stakeholders approach. In the say, when I'm talking about multi-stakeholder approach, that's one is the industry peers. For example, if I am working as a pharma industry, my pharma other industry peers, what they are doing. The first aspect. The third aspect is whatever my customers, because I do have a different customers from different countries, different regions. So what their goals, what their aspirations towards. See, for example, if you take in Nordic countries, they are focusing on circular carbon neutrality and circular economy, whereas Southeast Asia, they are more focusing on labor practices, anti-corruption, such kind of things. So we wanted to collaborate all these things, and we developed a framework which is globally consistent and which is fulfilling the requirements of the local needs. This is the way just we have developed, and at the same time we need to have a balance in compliance with ethical leadership. That also is one of the major aspects what we have taken up. That means going beyond the legal mandate when the local regulations are weak, at the same time avoiding greenwashing and misleading of sustainability claims, which is happening regularly in different organizations. So this is the way we wanted to develop and integrate the requirements of all countries to our ESG aspect. Then only you will succeed. Because what happens if I am supplying one product to the one company in US, so they will have their own ESG goals. If I am not aligning to their goals, because they will not meet their goals, so they will not come for business with me. So this is the way just we are analyzing the market and understanding the customers, understanding the peers in the market. Then we have derived our goals and framework by taking the standards like GRI, SAB, TACF, DISFB, all the things we have. It's not that we have consented one guideline. We have merged everything and we released our sustainability report, having all aspects are covered across all the countries, so that anybody wants that is available. So this is the way just we are harmonizing our sustainability approach towards the globalized and adapting to the local requirements. This is the way we are our approach, Ajay.
Thanks, Srinivas. Simla, I have one more question to you. I mean, I'm just completing it with you. What are some of the internal challenges you have encountered while implementing ESG initiatives, and what were your thought process which you have applied to overcome those, Sunila?
Sure. So again, I mean, there are a lot of challenges, and I think the first challenge I have already spoken about. So I think understanding of the requirement is the biggest challenge, I would say. And why I say that, because even if we receive a document, say an approval or a compliance which has to be done, not everybody in the organization actually understands what is to be done in the true spirit, to comply to that requirement. So I think capacity building and understanding the requirements which are there in black and white is the first important aspect. And once the employees understand what is to be done, each business function has to identify their role, how to go ahead and comply and then communicate. So I think compliance understanding is one, then complying is second, and third is again communication, because unless you communicate to the right stakeholder, how are you actually complying to the regulatory frameworks. I think, I mean, it is very important for the relevant stakeholders to know how have you reached that particular level of compliance. And the second challenge I would say is buy-in. I think Nirbhay already spoke about it, that buy-in from the senior management is again very important. So I can say a basic framework where if you have a ESG committee at a board level, then at a senior management level, and then at a working committee level. I think this is how a top-down and up-down approach in each organization can be the best formula for implementing any ESG strategy. And the challenge which will be overcome by doing this is that each and every business function will have the same level of understanding. Because right now, I think we are treating ESG as a separate topic. And though we say that, it is embedded or getting integrated into business strategies. But I personally feel there is still a lot of room to actually improve the integrity of each business function. If they act upon with little more accountability, I think the final outcome will be much better. And the second challenge is, I think, for each and every corporate is the rating agencies. I think the rating agencies are giving different weightages to the ESG, and the approach and the methodology across the globe is also different. And when I say that, there are some companies who are actually attributing to, giving more importance to the E of it. Some are giving more importance to the SNG. And if you look at the methodology, some rating agencies are actually trying to look at, the risk aspect of ESG, and some are actually trying to look at the principles of ESG. So I think this difference in approach in methodology and, giving ratings and scores to the corporates is actually the biggest challenge, if I may say so. And that's the reason why when the corporates are also disclosing their sustainability report, I think the information going out from the corporate is one set of information, but the way it is being interpreted by the rating agencies is totally different. And that's the challenge which brings all the corporates to a worry, where because of the difference in attribution to the ESG principles, the same information is getting a different rating. So I think that's another challenge, and I think we already spoke about the data. So for each business function, or the corporates, I think there is still a difference in the way it is being collected and interpreted. And India, when we spoke about BRSR, I agree with Deepa that it has come out really well. But I think we have still missed one important aspect there, with the respect to value chain partners integration. I think when it comes to your emission integration, which even Srinivasa was trying to say, we have not spoken about the attributable emissions there. And when I say that, the small and medium enterprises, which are again, the largest sufferers in this whole process, I think they are still not able to understand that when and what and how much is to be reported to each corporate. Because a small and medium enterprise, even though he is one entity, he may be, supplying to say 50 corporates. So the same information is actually going to them. And in this process, we are actually trying to duplicate the information which is going, to the other end. And hence, I think in the BRSR, there is still a certain revision, which is happening. And that may help, our framework to actually come up to that level, which is acceptable globally. So these are a few challenges, and I think data, we can of course have tools like the ESG softwares which are there. And the best advantage I can say is the data remains with the company. It doesn't go away, with the employees. So these are few challenges which I thought I should highlight here. Thank you, Ajay.
Thanks, Sunila. Yogesh, question for you, Yogesh. What do you think can the role of industry benchmarks and standards play in shaping ESG strategies, and how do you measure success against them, Yogesh?
Thanks. Thanks, Ajay. Um, some of the panelists had earlier spoken about the different types of, uh, I would say, standards, but I will not go into the standards. I would say, and when if you are talking about ESG, you benchmark yourself across your peers and find out where you stand, and then look at it how you can overcome those your peers by doing certain process modification, or you can the good way of, if you are looking at E parameter, is to shift from conventional fuel to renewable fuel. That is generic. It's not applicable. I would not say it's applicable to each and every, but it's a generic thing. Similarly, if your S parameter is not proper, you don't have proper um, diversity ratio, then you can start working. But it's again a function in which sector you are working. Like I would give you an example. Few years back, mining sector was not open for women to work. Now, Government of India has also taken initiative and has opened mining sector. So you have to look at, when you are benchmarking yourself, you look at. So the point why I am making about this mining sector is, if you go overseas, in mining sector, women are allowed to work 24/7 but in India it was not allowed. So if you are benchmarking against a international mining company, you will never be able to beat that. But now you can now beat that. So same way, there are certain areas where you need a specialized skill set operating on shop floor. So you have to look at that. So that's how you have to benchmark yourself. But I would say once you do the benchmark, then you set, you know where you stand. That's something similar to the materiality, or where you know what is your ground reality, and then you set your targets and take. You can have small term target saying that I would reach from X level to X-1 or X-2 in next 3 years, X-5 in another 7 years, and this way you can decide. But for this, you have to have both buy-in from the management as well as from the other stakeholders also.
Okay. Thanks, Yogesh. So, I mean, we spoke a lot about implementation and collaboration. So, and also, Deepa, how do you think climate change policies and global sustainability goals will influence ESG integration in businesses over the next decade, Deepa?
Yeah, there is in fact a lot of news happening globally around ESG and sustainability and the implementations. And some reports also say that we have breached the 2 degree or 1.5 degrees pre-industrial levels. So it's really a cause of concern, and concern again evaluated or understood differently by different countries and different businesses. What I would really table here is that the global waves definitely would replicate in India as well, whatever is happening globally. while the EU's ESRS, the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, take shape, the exporters in India, I think the export market in India is going to adapt to the requirements foremost. And the ESG scene would definitely get more mind space within the businesses and their agendas. Within the ESG integration, my concerns largely are around the MSMEs. The large companies would still figure out.
Right.
The MSMEs are the place where the real concern is. Therefore, we need solutions. We need ESG platforms which are friendly to smaller businesses. When I say that, what I really mean is how can you help small businesses understand uh, to be able to comply and continue their businesses? Therefore, the real ask here is for simplification of ESG understanding. Now that is what I see that most people that work in the sector try to complicate. It has to be simplified. So be it platforms, be it certification bodies, or be it data accumulation softwares, or whatever is the solution which is there, whatever is the aid that is there, it needs to start at a very simple level. Else what will happen is that the whole the MSME industry is going to go through a churn. It will become so much more difficult to export the goods. These guys are the ones who know to export goods. They know to make what the goods are. But just because they don't understand the ESG, it shouldn't be that they fall prey to coming under a large company. So if we have to allow MSMEs to thrive, the ESG platforms, the ESG regulations, or even the ESG certification bodies have to make it simple. Even within Updapt, you also have a brilliant solution. It has to probably, I had researched about this about 8 years back in terms of saying not all industries need to have a, an approach of ESG which is really that robust. There can be this small, scale industry which just has to figure out water and waste maybe. They really don't have anything to do with carbon. So just water and waste, even if they figure out, they can stand for themselves. I think that's the kind of revolution, Ajay, that is needed. And that's what is going to help.
True, true. Agree with you. As India is also committed to being net zero, I mean, by 2070 in their carbon emissions, I think every effort would be appreciated. And as you rightly said, even water and waste also can be a big churner in this aspect. Thanks, Deepa. I think we are bang on time. So my last question for Yogesh: how can businesses future-proof their ESG strategies to remain competitive in a rapidly changing sustainability landscape, Yogesh?
It again, it's a, I would say it's depend upon what type of industry you are in. So, like Deepa comes from apparel industry, which is one of the very vocal industry in terms of ESG standards, or or in the other way, the financial industry, which is actually driving the ESG. So it depends upon in which sector you are present and in which geography you are trying to have your more customers. So Indian context, still that uh, thing is not there, that if a company A is more ESG complied. I would not use the term complied. I would say in terms of his performance in ESG is much better than company B, then he is a selected vendor. That type of mentality is still not there. But if you are going abroad and trying to sell your goods there, that mentality is there. So it all depends upon which geography you are in, which industry or which sector you are in, and it definitely at the bottom line, which I believe is, if you have a very good ESG scorecard or performance, your bottom line is also going to get impacted in a positive way. So that's going to help in returns. So this is how you have to look at it.
Sure, Yogesh. Thank you. So thank you so much to all my panelists for dedicating their valuable time for this session. For me, at least, I would say it was an amazing experience for me about how we are in the past and how we are today, taking cue from the global standards and building a foolproof future, and at the same time adding tangible value to all the stakeholders across the value chain. I'm sure the audience might have also felt the same, and I hereby open the floor for questions. Over to you guys. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Veena, I think.
So Ajay, there is a question in chat box. Can you just read and ask the panelists, please?
Sure. So, I mean, there is a question from Hariharan. To start a career in ESG as a fresher with the background of sustainability and forestry, from where I can start? Any panel members, can you answer this question? Is what his submission is.
I think it's simple. I'm sure when I reading the profile itself, yeah, you can start with reporting, but don't limit yourself to just numbers. There's much more better ways of scaling yourself and also picking up the ladder much better. So don't limit yourself to just numbers. That could be one way of looking at starting your career.
Thanks, Nirbhay. So there is one
Just to
question
add
from.
to that, sorry, Ajay, to add to
Yeah,
Nirbhay, I would say he can have a career in biodiversity. This is also a very big sector coming out, and it's a niche area. Since he has a background in forest management, so he can be an asset in biodiversity
true.
work also.
Thanks, Yogesh. So there is a question from Sri Ganesh. Can we have some tips for promoting awareness on sustainability with suppliers? I think Deepa or Sunila can take this question.
Yeah, of course, I would always suggest that there be a method to anything that is done around sustainability. Therefore, I think generally large companies or small companies, whichever is your company, you need to have a framework which says these are the 2, 3 key areas that are as per materiality matrix, the top ones on concern. And then if your suppliers are really, the area where you need to dial down in terms of emissions or water consumption, I think then it lines up back very well rather than really just starting with suppliers. It has to feature in your materiality assessment first. And if it's one of the top 5 or 7 issues that you have, it's easier to adopt and really align your suppliers. Of course, you have to have a clear roadmaps on what you want to do with your suppliers and clear metrics with timelines. That'll help. Thank you.
And
Thanks.
Ajay, there is another question in Q&A session from Tanya.
Tanya, is it?
Yeah, Q&A is just next to the chat bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tanya's question is, when we talk about ESG scorecard, does this mean ESG ratings of the companies, or is it anything particular about it? Yeah, Nirbhay or Srinivas, you want to take this question?
Okay, let
I'll
me
repeat
go.
the question. Yeah, please.
Nirbhay, is that okay?
Yes, Deepa, go ahead. I'll add.
Okay. So ESG scorecard is basically accumulation of all the measures that you would have had, in terms of environment, social, and governance. So if you take environment in specific, You can measure water, consumption of water, how are you disposing water, what is your source of water, what are the pollutants in the water that is there. Anything and everything around water comes in. Then there is also waste. So you can measure how much waste your operations are generating, your value chain is generating, your products are generating, your manufacturing is generating, all about waste. Then there is, of course, the big topic, which is the carbon emissions. So you can measure how much of emissions in scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions which are there, and how much of that is being done, what kind of emissions are there. Within that, there is SOx and NOx as well. So the kind of ACs that you use, therefore the kind of emissions that are there. So it's a very complex, level of measurement that is there, and various metrics that are there around each of these. So water can be measured in a particular unit, carbon and carbon emissions around different units, and how you get all this together is really the scorecard of ESG. What is ESG ratings of companies? That's a very different thing, which I think Sunila was speaking about, where there are third-party agencies which pick up all the companies that are reporting BRSR or are listed in SEBI, and they do a rating of different companies in terms of ESG. That's another thing, and ESG scorecard is different. Thank
I
you.
think Tanya wants to add on to her question, so she has raised the hand. I'll just unmute her what she would like to add. Yeah, Tanya, go ahead. Tanya, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to you guys?
Yes, you are.
So this was a wonderful session. I just want to know, okay, when you talk about ESG scorecard. So right now I'm in a manufacturing company. I'm leading the corporate sustainability department. So when we talk about ESG scorecard, so do we talk about is like as ma'am Deepa ma'am have already told me, it's about waste, water, and different sector. So I am currently reporting all of the waste, water, and basically environmental, social, and governance in general. But when we talk about scorecard, as Yogesh sir talked about scorecard, so I just wanted to know what does that mean? The we have EcoVadis that gives us rating. So does that mean that, or we have like our own website? Does the investor go into our website, or they go into our ratings like that? Also, there are a few other questions like how do we know our ESG strategies and implement it across our value chain? And then the major challenge that I face is, I think, lack of awareness and data collection process, because people don't know how to give data, and I can't expect them to know about ESG. So how can I do the capacity building across my uh, plants and supply chain in general? Yeah, that's all. Please, if you can.
Tanya, I will give you the difference between ESG scorecard and the ESG rating. See, basically ESG score is comprises for your own organization, right? Your company, what is your goals, how you are progressing. Whereas ESG rating, it is measurement of your efforts towards the ESG with respect to the global benchmarking. For example, if you say EcoVadis, they will give you the rating from different medals, right? So which is benchmarking to the global requirements. At the same time, CDP, they will give you the rating A minus, A plus, B, those things. So that is rating, which is you are benchmarking against the global requirements. Whereas ESG scorecard, that is completely your personal industry. So where you are lying, what is your goals, how you are going to progress. So this is the basic difference. First question. The second question answer is, when you wanted to develop the suppliers, your suppliers are your plants. the training and developing the simple tool to dump the data into that. Remaining all calculation has to be done background. So how you have to develop the competency is giving the simple measurement of water, wastewater, electricity consumption. See, don't ask for scope 1 emissions, scope 2 emissions, or scope 3 emission. Just you ask the data what is required, that has to get calculated background, or you calculate, so that that can be presented in form of your requirement. Because if you go and ask what is your scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, how many, that because it's very difficult for the MSMEs, because the all supply chain are very, their knowledge levels are limited. They don't have even specific ESG competent person in their organization. Somebody, sometimes the HR will deal, sometimes some safety person will deal. So that you need to define them. This is the data, you give it to us, so that you calculate and you present back to them. They will raise it and they will come forward. This is the way, just what we are getting the data and compiling the data with respect to the supply chain and building the capability slowly. It's not that one day they will become experts. I hope we answered these two questions.
Absolutely, Srinivas. I think you have rightly answered that thing. Yeah. Hope this is clarified. And thank you to big thanks to our incredible panelists for sharing their insights and experiences today. To our audience, we hope this discussion has offered you actionable strategies and a deeper understanding of how ESG can drive long-term business success. Yeah. Thank you so much. So thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you.
thanks,
Thanks,
Nirmal.
Ajay.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for giving
thank
opportunity.
you. Thank you, everyone.